G'day guys and welcome back to your English Aussie. Today we've got a bunch of great stuff for you. Firstly, we're going to be starting off with our team observations for the week. We will be going through the matches from game week 15, talking through the tactical analysis across those and looking at our predictions from prior week and how they looked out. We are then going to go on to our player statistical analysis. We're going to run through the best defenders, midfielders, and forwards to pick from a statistical viewpoint. And then we will go on to our buy, sell, HODL, which is a new slide that we've put in this week. You guys were calling for some transfer plans and who you would like to see bought, sold, and moved on and hold in the game week. So put that together. And then finally, we will be going on just to have a quick look at my team. We are now up to 190k in the world. And I think that has been due really a lot to the tactical observations that we've been making and understanding the game and the teams and the fixtures and which matchups are good for players, as well as the statistical observations. And the key is linking those together. So we're going to start off with our team observations from game week 15. We saw Crystal Palace versus Manchester City, which we did predict both teams to score. Crystal Palace have been a bogey team for Man City the last few years, always achieving good response, especially at Selhurst Park. So I was expecting Palace to be confident in this game, especially considering the form that Man City were in. And it did end up as just another game that City did not manage to get the win, allowing Liverpool off the hook a little bit in this game week where they were postponed against Everton and didn't have a game. Both City and Arsenal failing to win really sort of did allow Liverpool off the hook a little bit. And I would say that in the game again, Man City again looked to sort of get more legs into that team. They had Rico Lewis at left back, Kyle Walker at right back, Guardiola at centre back, Ruben Diaz. The middle of the park was a little bit exposed. Again, a little bit leggy with Gundogan and Bernardo Silva. And Palace again were really dangerous on the counter and straight away in the first few minutes of the game managed to score, put City on the back foot, and then really they had to climb back into the game. Again, you saw again Palace using the tactical approach that many teams have used against City this season, with 5 at the back in a defensive setup and man marking on Haaland. This has really been the approach since Southampton did it against Man City earlier in the season, that teams have used to sort of stifle City this season, decrease Haaland's productivity, and just make it much more difficult for them to score the goals. They have obviously lacked a little bit of creativity, especially with De Bruyne out this season. Having him back now, I think they've started to create a few more chances, even in this 5 at the back system. But it's just not quite clicking for them. They're not able to find their way through the lines. It did look a little bit better with a bit of Grealish, De Bruyne, Doku on the far side, Savinho in the team. But they do just miss a little bit of direction in that midfield that previously came from Rodri. He would also, his passing was superbly accurate, really moved the ball quickly side to side for City, which I just think they're not doing quick enough at the moment that they have done previously, where they've been able to cause the teams problems. And that's why they're just not quite able to break teams down as well that are playing in those 5 at the back, really low blocks against them. So yeah, bad result for City this week, and then similar for Arsenal against Fulham, a 1-1 draw where a Bukayo Saka last-minute winner was ruled out by VAR. The correct decision, however, horrible for Arsenal right at the end of the game to get that sort of hope dashed. I think Fulham, their team and the makeup of their team really makes them difficult to play against. They're a very physical team makeup. In past seasons gone by, this would have been a thing that Arsenal really would struggle with, where teams are super physical against them. But I think the team makeup that now Mikel Arteta has brought into that Arsenal side, they're really able to cope with that sort of physicality a lot better with Partey, Declan Rice, and some more like Gabriel Saliba, some more sort of physical build of players in that team. And that really has changed the way that Arsenal team makeup is this season in comparison to some other seasons, past seasons gone by. Fulham again, as they have done all season, very good on the counter, the progressive carries through the midfield. Often somewhere Arsenal can get caught out. Having Declan Rice in their team really did, I think, help them in that transition phase. He was good at sort of spotting those breaks and trying to get in the right positions at the right times. They also played Jorginho alongside Odegaard and Rice in there for a little bit of creativity. And also, I think Jorginho for just positional awareness defensively to try and get into those correct positions. Fulham sort of played a 5-4-1 in defensively, and their four in the midfield was super sort of, I say narrow here, but it was always focused narrow. They would all be bundled in together, but often you would see them shifted right out to the left-hand side or Arsenal's right-hand side where Saka was, to almost like just not give him any room to work in. They almost said, here you go, you can play down your left or right-hand side. You're not going to hurt us there. You're going to hurt us down this your right-hand side with Bukayo Saka. And they sort of really loaded up and pushed all of their sort of players over there and didn't allow them to play through the middle. They sort of shifted that 4 block into the middle. And yeah, really, Arsenal just didn't move the ball quick enough side to side. Similar thing that we said about Man City. They just weren't able to shift that ball side to side fast enough to create the openings and the spaces they needed when that sort of narrow block of 4 in midfield from Fulham was moving side to side throughout the game. And again, I think you saw Arsenal quite reliant on set pieces in the last few, well, not reliant on set pieces, but like a really big part of their game has been this sort of new set piece routine that they've been going through. I think there's been a lot of comments and queries about whether what they're doing is actually legal. So obviously, like they have that sort of block of 4 or 5 players where one will sort of run around the back, come in front of the goalkeeper from the like out of play line. The other will come around the other side and get in front of the goalkeeper and sort of stop his ability to move and come for the cross. And then the cross is delivered really close to the goalkeeper because he's unable to go there. Personally, I don't think there's an issue with it. Like, I think it's really smart. Whoever's come up with that in the Arsenal set piece team has done a really great job of formulating that. They do need to be careful to not sort of bump the goalkeeper on their way through. There has been probably a few corners where maybe they've just been a bit too physical with the goalkeeper. But from what I've seen mostly, like I just think it's a really fantastic set piece routine. Teams are obviously going to have to work away of dealing with what Arsenal do and working out a way to stop that before they're going to change up and do anything else, because it's been really successful from them. And that's really been in part due to the great deliveries that Saka has putting into the box. Like, he has been fantastic swinging that ball in. He's so consistent with his deliveries. That's really helped Arsenal sort of pick out the players and make their runs and know that Saka's going to deliver it to where they're running. The other point that I just saw tactically from that game is Timber obviously shifted over to left back with Partey playing that right back role. I think that did sort of hurt Timber a little bit, like he didn't quite have that attacking link up that he's had with Saka in past games that's been so good for Arsenal. I would prefer to see Zinchenko on the left and Timber on that right side. I just do think that makes him a better FPL asset. He's definitely somebody that I'd be looking to get into my team for the Arsenal defense at the moment. I think they've obviously got a few really good games coming up in a row. It'd be nice to have somebody with attacking potential in the back line, also at 5.6 million. I think he's a really good pick and somebody that I'm definitely looking at trying to bring into my team this week. it is maybe a little bit of a wait and see on Gabriel midweek, and if how Arsenal line up in the midweek game that they have. Tottenham v Chelsea, I mean, we kind of expected it. We did say both teams to score. I think we did really expect an attacking game. Tottenham, obviously, high pace, very fast transition based game. And Chelsea were just not afraid to play play fast and play into them, and they have players that were able to break through the press, that are able to break the lines, that pass with pace, move quickly, and the game really was sort of end-to-end madness for a while. Cucurella obviously having the wrong boot, slipping over, costing them 2 goals. Really poor, if I'm honest, from Cucurella. You've got to know what boots you're wearing. You normally, in the warm-up before the games, you test out your boots. You probably go through a routine with one boot. If they're not working, you go through a routine with another boots. You see what works. As professional players, they should know better than that, and they should have the right boots on at the beginning of the game. He'll know that. He'll make amendments next week. I'm sure he's probably getting slated by the lads in training for that. So I'm sure he won't make that mistake again. I think Ange, again, the victim a little bit of his own style of play. I actually think like the way he set up wasn't brilliant. I thought that he really he shouldn't have been pressing Chelsea as high as he was pressing them. He probably could have done with actually playing Sarr and Basuma in a deeper lying role with maybe a Maddison above and then a Kulusevski and Son on the wings. That's the sort of formation I prefer for Spurs. I think that's their sort of best formation. He played Basuma by himself in the deep pivot, and then Kulusevski and Sarr sort of pushing on in that attacking midfield in the press. Chelsea and Maresca were able to sort of find an answer for that a little bit in the first half, but definitely at half time, you saw Maresca change up the tactics. What he did was he took off Lavia at half time, brought on Gusto, shifted Caicedo into that midfield position, and then it was actually Cucurella that was inverting into a 10 rather than Gusto on the right hand side, and just allowed Gusto to play in that sort of back three from a defensive perspective. Caicedo to slot into the midfield, give them a little bit more physicality. Also, just super like Caicedo is just so good on the ball. He was able to receive, and if he was able to break that Spurs high press with Kulusevski and Sarr, the two of them in the pivot then could pass into sort of like a Palmer, an Enzo in the first half, or a Cucurella in the second half. And then it was just Basuma trying to mark both of them. Ultimately, what he would do is a lot of the time go to Palmer. He was the bigger threat. Palmer would then drift slightly out to the right and allow the space for the other attacking midfielder to pick up the ball, and then it would cause probably one of the centre backs to step up towards them, and that allowed Jackson to run in behind and be dangerous. So that was the sort of setup that Maresca obviously spoke about at half time and caused Spurs so many problems. They were really just getting in that space in between the lines after they break the press. And then, yeah, just sort of running at that Spurs defence and causing problem after problem for them. Again, like Spurs, if they won it, like Chelsea sometimes have some problems playing out of the back. Robert Sanchez sometimes doesn't really know where he's passing the ball. And when they did win it, they broke high, they had chances, and they just sort of lacked that sort of clinical finishing or like killer balls, fighting that final third, really just to put Chelsea away a little bit. They had a few chances. Son had a couple of chances. Solanke had a couple of chances, and they just weren't able to put it away. And unfortunately, that did come back to bite them. However, yeah, we did get our 3 predictions right. moving on to the next games, Villa Southampton, same old Southampton. I think in this game, they still tried to play out from the back. They still gave the ball away many times. I think they just don't really understand the setup that it's hard to say because Russell Martin's obviously coached them in the setup that they want, but I just think their defence is far too narrow. Like when they try and play out from the back, their centre backs don't get wide enough. Even their full backs sort of there, but they don't really push on. It's really hard for them to break the press, and just architects of their own problem. They have a lot of possession in a lot of these games. Again, they don't really know. They don't have that sort of technical ability. They're not really sure how they want to attack. Yeah, I just think they're lacking the skill base in their players. Obviously, Russell Martin's got an idea of how they want to play and coaching them. I'm sure he's telling them what he wants them to do, but it just seems like they're not capable at the skill level their players are at of doing what he wants. So I expect Southampton to be active in that transfer window because otherwise I think they'll significantly struggle for the rest of the season and they won't have a chance of staying up. So yeah, it's a little bit adapt or die for them at the moment. I think they do need to change a little bit, playing out from the back, get their centre backs a little bit wider, give themselves a little bit more space, allow the players in midfield to drop into that sort of narrow bit, pick up the ball, and allow the centre backs to have it a little bit wider, have a little bit more space in the middle, and closer passes to the wing backs, less chance for interception. That's what I would do if I Southampton. Villa again, not particularly clinical. Obviously, Watkins didn't start, so we are considering him as a possible minutes risk going forwards. If you do have him, he's probably someone I'd be looking to sell now after those couple of good games that he's had. Isak, Jackson, other strikers, much better options at the moment with the run of games Villa have. West Ham Wolves, Jarrod Bowen, the man, my captain this week, did the business. Goal and an assist, another assist chalked off. Otherwise, could have got close to matching Palmer. Also, a 90th minute yellow card, which has cost me 2 points. Devastating. He was the main creative threat from West Ham again. I thought it was a really cagey first half. Obviously, both teams nervous, didn't want to lose the game, but I think they really needed to try and win that game. That was an important game for both teams to win. Yeah, I thought Wolves really struggled creatively. Their fullbacks were really sort of their main creative outlets. Through the middle, they're just sort of lacking that technical ability, creativeness. They're heavily reliant on Cunha doing everything. Strand Larson doesn't really get involved too much in the build-up play. It was really Aitnuri and Doherty down that right-hand side who were the real main Wolves attacking threat. On the other side, I thought Wan-Bissaka was really interesting for West Ham. He gets into some superb attacking positions, similarly to Aitnuri, in fact. And he's up and down, full game for West Ham. Thought he had a really, really good game and potentially in the future could be an FPL asset if West Ham can sort out their defence when they have a slightly nicer run of games later in the season. Man United, Forest, I think wasn't what we expected. We obviously said 2 or less goals in the game. But yeah, just felt like United again, they do look good going forwards. They do have some better attacking patterns, but just not quite together yet defensively, still leaving those gaps in between the lines. Not quite figured out what their first starting team is yet. You can see Amorim tinkering each week with his teams, tinkered again with his front three, tinkered again with his back line this week. So he's really just trying to find what works for United still. Excuse me. Nottingham Forest again, superb defensively, and Chris Wood just sensational up top. He's just always in good form. He just sort of found that looping header into the far corner. Really fantastic from him, and great work from Nottingham Forest. Milenkovic with the header as well exposed sort of United's frailties and set pieces this season. They really haven't been great defending them. And then Onana obviously with a bit of shambolic error for the other goal, shall we say. Yeah, moving on, Brentford, Newcastle. We did go on a bit of a limb for a rogue one with a Newcastle to win. If I'm honest, I thought that was a bit. I wanted to go with a bit of a rogue punt that week. I think Brentford's home form, obviously like one of the best in the Premier League. They're just fantastic at home. Probably a silly decision to back against them, and they showed it again. Relentless going forwards, struggle defensively, and that's just summed up Brentford's season really. Again, Wissa with the goal. We've spoken loads about them already this year. Positional IQ incredible, offensive fluidity almost insane at times, but it seems to be working for them. Thomas Frank has got a superb system going on, and yeah, they're able to get up and down the pitch and create a lot of chances, which have been really difficult for teams to defend against them. So yeah, another win for Brentford, and they keep on rolling at home. Leicester versus Brighton. Rude with some astute changes to sort of get Leicester back into that game. I really don't know how Brighton threw that away. I thought they were in a dominant position at 2-0, and they did just really throw that game away. I thought what was interesting for Brighton was their fullbacks, Lamptey and Estepinian, playing really high. Their sort of front four, the Mitomas, João Pedro's, Ruta, I think it's O'Reilly in this game, played super narrow, and then their fullbacks, wingbacks sort of got on really high. I thought a few chances for both Estepinian and Lamptey. I think they're definitely people to look at going forwards in that Brighton defence. I'm currently looking at Estepinian just because more secure minutes, but if Lamptey does get an extended run in the side, then perhaps he is someone to think about going forwards. He does provide a lot of dynamism and pace up that right-hand side. And to be honest, with the way that HODL plays and Brighton play, I actually think he's a perfect fit in that right wing-back position, and potentially might see some more minutes now he's back and fully fit for Brighton. Finally, Ipswich-Bournemouth. If I'm honest, I didn't really watch this game in great detail. It wasn't one that particularly excited me, but from what I did see, it just looked like Ipswich are still a team that are struggling, and that if you do have offensive players against them, you're really going to want to put them into the team and attack that Ipswich fixture. Is a really nice fixture. And I would look to attack that continuing going forwards. Moving on to our statistical analysis. And if we just pull up here the defenders that we've got, and we're starting with, and an unpopular opinion for me, I think you'll see going in my transfers in and out section, I think Trent Alexander-Arnold is a sell. He is not a buy. For me, it just is not the correct option to be going for. Your money can be far better spent elsewhere. You're definitely going to want that extra cash, an extra sort of however much it might be, 0.5, 0.6 million. It's so much better spent elsewhere. Trent's stats, again, I've said all season, his statistics, although they're the top here, inflated by very small like big chances at the beginning of the season that he created for sort of Diego Jota's where he missed them, and then obviously went up this week with his 2 assists coming off the bench. But the way he's been playing positionally under slot is in a far more defensive role. Both him and Robertson have not been in the same attacking positions that you've seen them in previous seasons, and that's why their returns and their attacking returns have been way more in line with a lot of the other defenders. They do create more XA, both of them, by the fact that they're on corners. But Trent's now come off a lot of corners for Alexis McAllister. So that's another string to his bow that's sort of being moved away. There are obviously rumours of him moving to Real Madrid. There is a possibility that it could happen in the January transfer window, because obviously he's out of contract at the end of the season and Liverpool may look to get some cash for him. However, with the injuries that they've got at the back at the moment, I would say that's probably not the right time, but money talks sometimes in football. So we will see. I think from Trent's perspective, with the way that Liverpool are doing this season, I'd want to try and stick it out and try and get another Premier League title. But yeah, for me, he's definitely not a buy. I would definitely go for a Virgil van Dijk over Trent. I think he's got more attacking threat than Trent. I don't see the same attacking threat for Trent in this new system under Slot. He's had to be much more disciplined defensively, hasn't been going forwards as much. The 2 assists he did get last week were because Liverpool were behind and they were given the license for him to fly forwards. That's not going to be happening many weeks. I would expect Liverpool to be level or ahead in games. And often if they do go behind, it's not late on in the game. They'll work their way back into the game, and again they'll manage that in the normal manner. So yeah, for me, Trent is not a buy. And if I had him, I would be selling him to make room for other players and have money in my team. The options that I do like, Saliba at Arsenal, Saliba Gabriel. Gabriel's only in orange here just because I'm waiting to see whether he plays in the midweek Champions League game for Arsenal. If he does, he's green. Saliba again, also good pick for Arsenal, good defence. And Julian Timber I really like for Arsenal. He's not quite on here at the moment, but he's recently started playing in that sort of, other than this week, he's been playing in the right back role, linking up with Saka really nicely, inverting, getting into positions, touches in the box, all of that good stuff. I think his stats are sort of undersold at the moment because he's sort of just he's playing in a few, like he's obviously played left back this week, didn't quite make the same positions, and previously to that, like wasn't quite playing in the same way that now Arsenal are looking and asking for him in that fullback role. So again, stats don't say everything. Like same for Trent, same for Timber. I think like they definitely miss false information almost looking at those numbers. Another guy that I do like, obviously Guardiola at Man City. I think their fixtures are really nice over the next sort of 7 weeks or so. As we talk about Haaland having some really nice fixtures, same for Guardiola. I think he's got some really nice fixtures. Unfortunately, he played centre back this week for Man City. But if he does move into that sort of left back role, he's just been getting in incredible positions, having shots in the box, shots on target. He's been clean through on goal a couple of times. He's also a threat in the air, off corners, off crosses. I think for me, he's one of like my number one choices at the back at the moment. I think he's definitely in the same caliber as a Van Dijk, a Gabriel, and a Timber for me at the moment. A couple of other guys that I like, Lewis Hall, Newcastle. Not so much from an attacking perspective, but over the next 2 game weeks, you've got Leicester and Ipswich, so potentially push on a little bit more, have a few more chances. Just Newcastle from a defensive perspective have some nice games over the next few weeks. So like Lewis Hall as a 4.4 sort of budget enabler in that side with some nice fixtures in a Newcastle team who can defend when they want to. So yeah, I think I really like Lewis Hall as an option. Another guy who I spoke about previously, Estepinian at Brighton. As I mentioned, like looking really nice, getting up and down that wing with him and Tarek Lamptey for Brighton in this sort of setup. Some other guys that just want to call out a little bit. Rane Nori at Wolves. Obviously have some good fixtures over the next 2 games, Ipswich and Leicester. But then after that, I think the Wolves fixtures really fall off. And I would say I wouldn't be trying to get him in my team at the moment. On 4 yellow cards, not the biggest concern at the moment, but yeah, I just think Wolves' defence is a major issue. They really haven't been able to keep clean sheets. They haven't been defending very well. And if he's not picking up an attacking return, he's not going to get you any points. So for me, just for those, if you've got him in your team, he's a hold because obviously you've got a good few game weeks coming up. But if you don't have him in your team, I wouldn't be looking to bring him in. I'd probably be going Lewis Hall over him or even an Estepinian. Another guy that's just a consideration for me, Nikola Milenkovic. We did speak about him in previous weeks. He did score a goal for Nottingham Forest again this week. Presence from a set piece, both him and Murillo. And Forest obviously being a very good defensive side. I know they've conceded a few goals over the last couple of weeks, but they are well coached. Their back four is defensively very solid. They do have some really nice complementary defenders in there. Milenkovic, Murillo, Moreno, Aina, a really nice complement of skills and individual aspects. And their fixtures do start to turn and get a little bit nicer from sort of game week 19 for five or so weeks. So if you do want someone over that sort of period where maybe after that you're looking to pull a wild card, I think Milenkovic would be a nice option. Moving on to the midfield, still the main guys. We talk about them every week. Probably not too much to talk about again this week. Salah and Palmer, great options, great form, great fixtures. Better fixtures for Chelsea and Liverpool. Salah obviously just amazing form. Tactically key guys in their team. Only thing to maybe think about with Palmer is teams are starting to look at man marking him. That's making him drift out to the sides to open up space for the other midfielders to pick up the ball and then feed Jackson or run into that space and drive. That is potentially minimising him and his returns a little bit in games because he's almost doing that sort of Lionel Messi role where he moves away from the play to create space for other players because he's such a focal point for opposition defences. Will that reduce his returns over the upcoming weeks? We'll have to see. Obviously, 2 penalties this week, so probably not really reflective of the chances that he did create. But again, tucked away those penalties, cool as a cucumber. That Panenka for the second goal was mouth-watering. Yeah, really fantastic. And I think Cole Palmer's a great asset to continue to own. There's not anyone better that I'd be looking at anywhere near that price point. Bukayo Saka obviously as a third. I think those 3 premiums really at the moment in your team almost a must-have. I don't see Haaland in 18 as the optimal option for me. I would probably look to go without him over that period. Otherwise, you're looking at coming out of one of those Saka, Salah or Palmer. I think that's difficult with the returns that they've been consistently getting over the previous game weeks. Obviously, Saka's so integral to everything Arsenal does. And the other guy is Jared Bowen that I'd be looking to get in. Performed this week. I brought him in a couple of weeks ago. Captained him this week. Got me 12 points, so 24 as captain. I think these stats are probably a little bit higher. The 15 XG/XA stats haven't quite come out for the West Ham Wolves game at the time of recording this, although I've watched the game and sort of given my analysis on that. But yeah, I think Jared Bowen is obviously looking like a real key player for West Ham. He looks like he's in great form. Like the goal he scored against Wolves was really great and just looks super dangerous on the ball. So if West Ham can pick up even a little bit, I think Jared Bowen over these next sort of 4 weeks, which is really what it is. And I think if you are going for him, you want to get him in this week for their sort of next 4 weeks against Bournemouth, Brighton, Southampton. And then I think after that, it's next 3 weeks really. And I think after that, their fixtures start to not tail off, but they're just not quite as good as this sort of small period of sort of 5 games they had here. They have Liverpool, Man City, then Fulham, Palace, Villa, Chelsea, which are not terrible games from an offensive standpoint, but probably not what you're looking for. I think I would probably look to be getting Jared Bowen back out of the side again if I can, in maybe I don't know, 19. But then again, he could cause Man City all sorts of problems. So I guess we'll wait and see whether I have the transfers available. Other midfielders want to talk about. Sorry, not moving on strikers yet. Just a quick, maybe Semenyo at Bournemouth. Nice little few fixtures still for them. Clivert as well there as a budget enabler for a sort of Rodgers if you're on a wild card and maybe you want to go someone else. Enzo Fernandez as well for Chelsea. He's obviously starting in that DM role, but when Caicedo was playing right back and Lavia was playing in the midfield with him, Caicedo would come into that midfield, hold with Lavia. Enzo would push on into the attacking midfield role with Cole Palmer. Maresca's really been working with him about pushing into the box and creating chances. And at 4.9, I think now he's gone up to 5 mil. Again, if I'm on a wild card, I'd probably go Enzo. If I'm not concerned about 3 Chelsea spots being used up, if you've got Jackson and Palmer as well. Some other considerations is if you want to rather double up in Arsenal attack over these next few game weeks, they're great fixtures for Arsenal. And if you don't have a Raya and you're not comfortable going with like Gabriel and a Timber, I would definitely consider maybe a Saka and Martinelli or a Saka and Trossard if you sort of are comfortable with his minutes. But yeah, I would say like either of those could be interesting differential picks for Arsenal. And obviously, Karim Mitoma for top Brighton, we've talked about before. Good fixtures, lovely player. Moving on to the forwards, and just to shout out, guys, if you are enjoying this content, please remember to like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps a small channel grow. I really appreciate it. Like the video, it also helps this video being seen by more people. So yeah, if you could subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, comment any thoughts that you have below, and yeah, you help get this sort of good stuff out to more people, and help me to create more great content for you guys going forwards. Anyway, on to the forwards. Erling Haaland, a sell for me. Ollie Watkins, a sell for me, especially with him being a minutes risk at the moment. The guys that I'd be most looking to get in for either of those guys would be Jackson and Isak. I think they're sort of that high to mid price strike option that you kind of want in your team at the moment to give you a bit of flexibility. I think both good options. I'd probably go for an Isak just for probably more comfortable over the minutes. I think Callum Wilson's not really there for Newcastle. Isak's in really great form at the moment as well. I don't like doubling up as much on teams if I can avoid it. But yeah, I think Jackson's just as good as a pick. Hard to pick between them, to be honest. I'd just go for Isak just for like diversity in my team in case Chelsea have a bad game week. But they've been playing fantastic lately, so. Other guys that I really like up front, João Pedro, Yohan Wissa. I talk about the same people every week. To be honest, like I just think they're both fantastic options. They both continue to be fantastic options. João Pedro, to be honest, is just like at that price point, there's no one better. You save that money, you can use it elsewhere. Talisman for Brighton team. He's gonna. I know maybe he's playing 70. They're sort of easing his minutes over this busy period, but he's going to be playing in all these games. If he's 70 minutes, he's 70 minutes, unfortunately. But I think he's someone I'm looking to keep long term. So I'm at 5.8 million. I just don't think there's anybody better. Yohan Wissa, one guy that I do think can compare to João Pedro at 0.4 million more. Just amazing footballing IQ. He gets in great positions. Fixture proof, in my opinion. He can score against any team. I would not worry about fixtures with Yohan Wissa. If you want him in your team, you should get him in your team. He's definitely somebody that is a very close consideration for me about whether I want to go with Wissa up top and 3 cheap strikers rather than an Isak or Jackson and then 2 cheaper ones. Other notable comments: Cunha, hold, don't buy, don't sell. Evan Nilsson, probably hold, don't buy, don't sell. Maybe buy if you're interested in someone around that price point, but for me, there's other better options. Chris Wood, hold. Buy if you love Chris Wood, don't sell. I think those next 4 game weeks for Chris, they're not bad game weeks from offensive. Villa have been leaking goals, Brentford are leaking goals, Tottenham are leaking goals, Everton not a great team. So over those next 4 weeks, definitely could score goals, and we'll see what happens. He's obviously scored 10 goals this year. He's the second top forward goal scorer after Erling Haaland, just ahead of Yohan Wissa. So another fantastic option. Don't turn your nose up him. He's been doing great for me over the last few game weeks. And then finally, moving on to a new section that you guys asked for in the comments, and I have listened to what you said. And if you do have further ideas, please chuck them in the comments for me. Happy to add them to my videos, improve my videos, give you guys what you want. So yeah, I have done a buy sell HODL. If you invest, you know about HODL, hold. So in the defence, my picks are Van Dijk, Saliba, Timber, Milenkovic, Hall, all of which we've spoken about so far. I have done a little sort of viewpoint here from a tactical, statistical, form, and fixtures. These are the 4 key things that I think you need to consider for all players. I think really the tactical side of it is very important, especially when you get into the midfielders and the forwards. Maybe a little bit less so for defenders. I think fixtures and statistics are a lot more important for the defenders. Obviously, like a little bit of tactical understanding, for example, with Trent and the positions he takes up, help a lot. Same for somebody like a Pedro Porro. So someone like a Pedro Porro, I do think tactically he does obviously have some bonuses in terms of he's on some free kicks. He might take some corners if Madison's not there. Those are sort of his advantages. His disadvantages is Spurs don't do a lot of deep crosses into the box. Pedro Porro doesn't tend to overlap very frequently for like a Brennan Johnson or a Kulusevski. He'll tend to sort of sit a little bit deeper, try and pick up the ball or roll into the edge of the box and take shots from there, which he's not been particularly successful at this season. So he might slightly improve in his statistical sense from that, but really from a tactical viewpoint and from what we can see, I'm not expecting him to get too many returns. Also, just Spurs defensively struggling, really, aren't they? So, other than that 14-point haul against Man City, which probably everyone benched him for, Pedro Porro's not been doing too much for them. So I've got him as a sell. I've got Trent as a sell, which we've discussed. I think both of those I would definitely look to sell and use the funds better elsewhere. I think, again, with Porro, he's also just a little bit too expensive for my liking for what he delivers. Holds, Gabriel, Guardiola, Lewis. Although, if I'm honest, I'd probably say Guardiola is a buy. I think if you're buying at that price range, you're probably more looking at a Timber or a Van Dijk at this stage. I do think Guardiola is somebody that probably comes into the equation as well, but he's probably not first priority. Maybe like a Timber, Van Dijk, Saliba. His first priority, then probably Guardiola is maybe a secondary defender. Gabriel, if you've got him, hold him. Let's see what happens Thursday midweek, whether he comes and plays or not, so we know. Otherwise, yeah, potentially someone that maybe you want to look to move on, maybe for another Arsenal defender. Lewis, I'm going to stick my neck out and just say hold one more week, hold a couple more weeks. I know he's suspended this week. If you do need to make a defender transfer and you don't have the guys to cover, obviously move him out. But if you're comfortable that you're going to have 3 defenders that are definitely going to play this game week, and you like the defenders and you like the teams that they're playing against, and you want to and you don't need to make that transfer, consider holding Lewis. He does continue to play a lot of minutes for Man City, and I do think like they've got a nice run of fixtures. There is some potential for them to finally start picking up some clean sheets. And he's just scored a goal, so you never know. He might grab a couple more. He does pick up some nice attacking positions every now and again. So yeah, I think at 4.7 million, someone like that in a Man City defence, I know it's not been performing great this season, but when they do start finding a rhythm, which they often do around this time of the season, he might be nice to just have hanging around at that price point. So that's my choices for defenders. Probably should have started at the right part on my screen. Moving on to the forwards, we'll come. In fact, maybe we should do it in order. We'll move on to the midfielders. For me, the buys, obviously the three main guys, Salah, Palmer, Saka. If you don't have any of them in your team, or either of them in your team, work out a way of getting them in. They're the big point scorers at the moment. They're the big players that you're looking at for captaincy each week. I think you need them all in your team. I think it is definitely optimal to have each one of them in there. Jarrod Bowen for me, next few weeks, great fixtures, in form after this week, tactically the key guy for West Ham. Statistics are not quite there, but that's just because West Ham haven't been performing fantastically at the moment. But it's more to target these fixtures. We think hopefully they'll be a little bit better. They didn't fill me with confidence this week against Wolves, but he still managed to get a goal and assist. So that is promising from Jarrod. Enzo Fernandez for me, also like more of a luxury transfer, but I would say like if you are looking to replace a Rodgers or a Smith Rowe or Semenyo or I don't know Buonanotte, Enzo Fernandez is just a lovely option basically in a 10 role for Chelsea offensively. He's playing in 10 with Palmer. Whether he's going to be playing every week in, week out, I'm not sure. At the moment, it looks like he is, and he's like found a nice groove under Maresca. I think he'll be playing the next few weeks. So, yeah, for me, he's a buy. Sells in the midfield, we have Brian Mbeumo, 7.6 mil. I think obviously a lot of people are looking to sell him at the moment. Tactically, sort of fallen out of favour a little bit as Wissa's come back and drifted out to that right-hand side. Other than being on penalties, not really been looking great. Statistically, not quite up there with the big hitters. Form-wise, he's still in like reasonable form, but it has been starting to drop off over the last few weeks. Obviously, he got a goal and assist this week. And then fixtures, yeah, Brentford's fixtures just aren't fantastic from an attacking standpoint. So for me, looking at that, you can really see that he's probably someone to sell. Brennan Johnson, for me, I've been saying for a few weeks now, I think he's definitely a sell. The points that he does get in your team are lucky. He doesn't pick up great positions for Spurs. He's only really good on the counter-attack for them. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's not a good player, but he doesn't get involved in the play. He doesn't get involved in build-up play. Zero assist threat. The only way he generally tends to score when Spurs are counter-attacking or he's arriving late at the back post. For me, he's tactically just not the right player for Spurs. I think Kulusevski's much better on that right wing with Maddison in attacking midfield. That's a much better Spurs lineup. I do think he's a bit of a minutes risk as well at the moment. I do think and just sort of working through that system and trying to work out what works best. His form's been great. He's been scoring goals and just popping up sometimes, again on the counter or late in games when other teams are attacking Spurs, and he's picking up those goals that make people think he's a good option and also inflate his statistics. But for me, he's a sell. Fixtures also for Spurs not fantastic over the upcoming game weeks. And then we got the HODLs. Bruno Fernandes, still a HODL for me. Tactically, obviously, Amorim's still sort of working some things out. So that's why I sort of got him as a warning or a watch to watch. Statistically, he's been looking nice. Form-wise, I think he's been in good form over the last couple of weeks. Fixtures-wise, it's a bit of a watch for me for Man United. They do still have some nice fixtures in the middle. They have Man City, then they have Bournemouth and Wolves, and then Newcastle. So they've got a couple of nice fixtures. So probably just hold for this Man City game if you got him, and then let him run riot against Bournemouth and Wolves, hopefully, and then potentially look to move him on after that. Semenyo as well, for me, if I've got him, I'd be looking to hold him. He's a nice budget enabler. He does have a lot of shots for Bournemouth. He is an important player for them. Tactically, gets into some nice positions. Statistically, he's got good stats, nice fixtures, just not quite in the best form over the last few game weeks. But yeah, hopefully he can turn that around with the nice fixtures that he's got. Finally, the forwards. Jackson, Isak, João Pedro for me. 3 main forwards. If you don't have any of them, those are the guys that I'm looking to get in. I think it's a one of Jackson and Isak, and then a João Pedro plus one of the smaller lower value options. So maybe a Cunha, a Wood, a Wissa. All great tactically for their teams. Statistically, have been fantastic. Form mostly great. João Pedro, obviously, last couple of games hasn't done too much, but still looked dangerous for Brighton. So I've just got him with sort of a watch on the form, as he hasn't returned for us over the last couple of weeks too much. Fixtures-wise, all of them nice fixtures coming up, which moves us on nicely to our sell. Top of the list, Erling Haaland, selling. Use the money elsewhere. Use the money in the midfield. Get those 3 premiums in there. Even if he scores a couple of goals, the midfielders can easily make up for that with like 1 goal and a clean sheet. That's 6 points for them. His 2 goals are 8 points. You know, that's a lot to make up for Haaland. He's really got to score a lot of goals to be worth that 14.9 million. That's basically 2 nice mid-price forwards. And you can spend that money upgrading 2 mid-price midfielders to Salahs and Sakas and Palmers, so maybe Sakas and Palmers. So yeah, for me, he's a sell. Watkins, his nice run of fixtures ended this week against Southampton. So for me, if you have him, he's a sell. He is in my team, and he is definitely one of the transfers I'm looking to take out. Obviously, Duran started against Southampton this week, which was a bit of a shame. We were hoping that Watkins would start that game and perform, which also now makes him a bit of a minutes risk going forwards, with Duran starting and scoring in the game. So we'll have to see with Watkins, but I think he's definitely a sell for me going forwards. The HODLs, Cunha. Please don't transfer Cunha out. I know he's blanked the last couple of weeks, but if you've got him, this is what you've got him for. Ipswich and Leicester, great fixtures. Gotta keep him in for those next 2 game weeks. If he blanks in the next 2, out he goes. But you need to keep him in for those next 2 game weeks if you've got him in your team. I wouldn't be buying him. I probably wouldn't be buying him ahead of those games. I'd consider it if it's that sort of price point where you're looking to go. I definitely would consider it. Ipswich, Leicester, Man United, Tottenham, not bad games. But again, Wolves creatively heavily reliant on Cunha. Can he do it all himself? I know they've got now Aitner and Doherty on those wings that are sort of creating a little bit, but outside of that, they really lack creativity in the middle and that technical ability at Wolves. So yeah, that's why I've got him a warning tactic-wise, because he's doing everything, but the team's not really helping him out. Chris Wood, if you've got him, I think hold him. Villa, Brentford, Tottenham, Everton, the next fixtures, pretty nice. Statistically, obviously, he's not really doing as well as the other strikers from an XG perspective. But actually, if we were to assume that statistics was goals scored, he's outperforming everyone. He's got 10 goals scored, second only to Erling Haaland with 13. So Chris Wood, for me, you got to keep him in your team, keep him rolling. He's almost been scoring a goal, every sort of 60 odd minutes, so 66 minutes or so. So yeah, for me, definitely a hold. Johan Wissa, someone really I'm looking to get into the team, but I sort of just had him as a hold. If you are looking for someone around that price point again, he's probably a buy for me. I say easily Cunha, Wood and Wissa could easily be in that buy category if you are looking for a striker around that price point. So yeah, I think that's most of the sort of detailed analysis that I wanted to go into today. As you can see, I'm 190k in the world at the moment. Had another nice game week, and yeah, moved myself up from sort of 200k up to 190k. I think just been consistently having green arrows since sort of game week 1, really. And I think it is the sort of showing of a good FPL manager. The trend, the direction that you're trending in most game weeks. I think if you're consistently getting green arrows, you can think that you are making good decisions. I think at the beginning of the season, game week 1, there's a little bit of luck involved. If you pick the right team, you get a big boost on your competition. If you don't quite have the right structure, the right team, and I think this year the structure was sort of not straightforward to pick. And I think you could have gone in a couple of directions on that first wild card. But I think from game week 1, since I'd been adjusting that team, because I didn't, start with the Salah and Haaland that sort of got everyone off to the flyer. I just had Haaland. I've been pretty much getting mostly green arrows. I think maybe 2 red arrows, maybe max 3. I think one was like maybe 50k red or something. Yeah, just been consistently improving each week. Again, like I said, I think it's a lot to do with this sort of tactical viewpoint. So I hope you guys are enjoying that sort of side of the analysis to go along with that sort of statistical side. I hope this helps your teams improve going forwards. And yeah, I will be doing a deadline stream again this week where we'll talk about our game week 16 predictions. We'll talk a little bit in detail about any of your teams. If you do have some teams that you'd like to get reviewed, chuck them in the comments, the team ID, and I might do a video either this week or next week with some team reviews and some like transfer suggestions and what I'd be looking to do in a bit more depth of your teams than I can do on the deadline stream. Maybe I can go into a bit more detail. Otherwise, yeah, join on the deadline stream, chuck in your team IDs, talk me through what your transfer plans are, leave some comments on the video for this video. If you've got any questions around what you're looking to do with your team, I'll be able to reply to all the comments. I'm back home again this week, so I'm around and can reply to everything as I have been all the way through. But also we'll be doing a nice long live stream for you guys this weekend as well. Once again, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment on this video. It really help a small YouTube channel grow. I think we've made some good growth so far. We're on to around 130 subscribers just in a couple of months. So channel's been picking up really quickly. People have really started to like a lot of the stuff. It's been really nice seeing you guys in the comments. And a lot of returning viewers. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. Hope you like the new section on the transfer plans this week, the buy, sell, and HODL section. And yeah, let me know if you've got any more ideas for the videos. And have a great week, guys. Really appreciate you all. Thanks a lot.